Hello everybody, this is Curtis from PSNStores.com. Today we're going to take a look at Nightmares from the Deep 2, the Siren's Call. If you remember, around a month or so ago, we did a video and review for Enigmatis, Ghost of Maple Creek. That was another kind of hidden object adventure game from Artifex Mundi. This is, yet again, just another game that they have put out. In this case, if you remember in that video, I brought up Nightmares from the Deep. That is the game that that's the first of their games that I played. The first Nightmares from the Deep way back in like August of last year. And they've been doing pretty good at they've got a ton of PC games of this genre. And they've just been churning them out on PS4 as well. There's actually a few others on PS4 that I haven't even played. One of which that came out like a couple weeks ago that I want to check out at some point. But this is the sequel to Nightmares from the Deep, of course. It is the one that I kind of fell in love with. It was just I bought out of the blue. I didn't really know much about it, and I really liked it quite a bit. So I've played through this. I really like this. It might be my favorite of the three of the Artifex Mundi kind of hidden object adventure games that I've played thus far. So we're gonna start up a new game. So basically the way this works is I don't know exactly the time frame it was on PC, but you know, you've got your main campaign, the Siren's Call, and then on the PS4 version at least, you get this extra little bonus story. Sometimes they're kind of epilogues, sometimes they expand upon certain characters. They're much shorter than the main game, but it's a nice little addition to have. But we're gonna do the Siren's Call, of course. And so you can choose between casual or expert. So casual, or basically, you know, it says best for a smooth experience. Expert gives you a bit more details. So hint, recharge is slower, and there are no indications on map. What that means is basically on the map, it will show you, if you're stuck, what areas specifically still have things to find, or there are still things to do in specific areas. And so if you're stuck, you can actually look at the map and see specifically where you should be going, which is really nice, especially on that first playthrough. So you're not stuck for too long. We'll do casual just for the sake of being able to show you that stuff. And there's some other things that casual mode has compared to expert. So I want to be able to actually show that. But so basically, as a setup here, the original Nightmares from the Deep, in this series at least, you play as like a museum curator, and you're actually kind of seeing some flashbacks here. Basically, this big pirate ship kind of wrecks into your museum. These pirates steal your daughter away, and so you follow them off to this island to save your daughter, and you discover, and on that journey, that the leader of this pirate crew has a bit of a history, and you kind of uncover his past as you play through the game. And it's I thought it was like really well done. It was pretty interesting. And so basically this is the follow-up, and so you're playing the same character. You're back in the museum. The exception now is that your character who kind of vanished and then showed back up to her museum just with a big pirate ship. And so that's kind of what's known about her. She's like, oh, people maybe aren't too aware of what her adventure actually was about. But regardless, it was kind of she's just kind of shown back up. She's got a pirate ship now, and people are like, all right, something happened there. But game doesn't get too much into that. One thing I want to point out, actually, nice little Easter egg here. This photograph is actually, if you can see it, and if you did watch the Enigmatis Ghost of Maple Creek video, or if you played that game, you recognize this is actually a scene from that game. It's a specific area you go to, which I thought was kind of neat.
Good evening. I've got an urgent delivery for Miss Black, museum curator.
So at the beginning of this game, we're back at the museum, and this person kind of shows up, and they're like, "Hey, I got like a package for you," and we'll see what that is. So that's your daughter that you save. Gonna read through news stories.
need your help with a package of the utmost importance. I can't get to its contents without a bizarre artifact. Since you have experience with strange happenings at sea and the legend of Davy Jones, can you please open the package? I was told that you're the only one who can.
So we're gonna skip these tutorials here. So as I mentioned, you know, it's your character has kind of made a name for herself, and so you have this person showing up, and he's like, "I hear you're the person that I need to see about this." So let's see. We got a key. We're gonna head back into our office. So we can open up this drawer. There's a few things here. Specifically some scissors.
She was right. The artifact is here at your place.
So it's one of those things when I was playing the Ghost of Maple Creek, that being my second kind of Artifacts Monday game, not that I was didn't expect it, but it became very clear, like, okay, these games are very, very similar. They're telling different stories, maybe, and maybe they're in different locations, but you know, and of course they'll have different puzzles. But as far as like the hidden object stuff and the progression and how they play, they are very much following a very similar kind of pattern, and that's the case for this game too. Except this game does some things that actually introduces some new kinds of hidden object puzzles, actually, which I was a little surprised to find, but I'm really happy that it has them, because it does help to kind of differentiate itself, but it also helps to kind of solve some of the issues that I think I had with the other Artifacts Monday games, thus far at least. So this is a pretty simple puzzle. We're just kind of arranging pieces here to make the full picture come into play. And I think, yeah. And then we'll slide these around, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Most of the puzzles in this are not too difficult. Nothing that will, you know, really like have you stuck for a long time. Even if you're playing on expert, I don't think the puzzles change too much. And then these we're just kind of rotating around. Yeah. There was one puzzle late in the game. It involves kind of figuring out a combination to a locker, and you're using like a stethoscope. And so I thought it seemed to be implied that you would like have to listen and hear like certain clicks to know which number to input, but that didn't seem to be the case. It was really confusing about how you were supposed to solve that puzzle. That's the only one that was like that. But in general, they're not too bad, and even the ones that might take a little while are pretty interesting or clever. And it's the thing that, for all of these games really thus far, most of these games you're going through these 2D scenes, right? You're clicking on interesting objects to pick them up, you're examining certain areas to solve new puzzles or hidden object games. But every once in a while you'll trigger these scenes with like 3D animated characters, and like it's clearly like low budget, right? But I kind of like the look of it. It's got this really interesting look that it really struck me when the first time I played these games, Nightmares from the Deep 1.
Thank goodness you're okay. There's no sense trying to maintain my cover anymore.
But regardless, so basically, you know, we uncover this artifact. These fish people show up. this poor character, she just has a knack of these weird things showing up at her museum and crashing in, and then she is whisked off to another island. So basically the setup here is that you're in this island with a group of pirates. They kind of decided to give up their pirate ways, settle on this island. They kind of revert back, and the leader kind of discovers his power thanks to like kind of a Davy Jones kind of deal that he makes, and they find this mermaid, Calliope, and they kidnap her. They steal her powers, and they've turned to fish people. And so this guy has kind of shown up, and he's asking you to help him to hopefully free Calliope and make things right.
Quick, help me barricade the windows.
Another thing this game does, again, this is very similar to Nightmares from the Deep in a lot of respects. Of course, just, you know, as a sequel, it improves upon certain things. Alright, I might need to go back. I need that ore. But it's one of those things where the original Nightmares from the Deep, what I really liked about it is as you were progressing, you would find these coins, these fish coins, and you would use these fish coins to place them into like a treasure chest that had this character wrapped around it. And what that would do is it would be used to, like, every time you found a coin, you would learn something new about the villain. And so that's how they would kind of deliver the backstory to you. And I really liked how that was done, which is why one of my complaints about Enigmatis Goes to Maple Creek was that the villain felt really underdeveloped. And like, even the story, like, it felt like I was getting into the story like halfway through. It was, the pacing was all off. So this game reverts back to what I liked about Nightmares from the Deep. Is, you know, even when it starts out, even you're starting out here, you know, there are things happening already. But what I like about it is that, again, we are introduced to this villain, and then as you progress, you get to learn more about his backstory and more about how things came to be, like why the situation is what it is right now. Actually, I need a bucket. Trying to remember. Where I go for that. Oh, never mind. Nope. That's the hose. We're good. Probably would help if I turned the water on. Alright, so we put out the fire. I guess we don't have access to the map just yet. We should get it pretty soon, though.
This must be the mysterious Calliope.
So this is Calliope.
But I brought her instead. She will help us, my love.
Hello, Miss Black. My name is Calliope. I'm terribly sorry for the circumstances of our meeting, but you're the only one who managed to lift Davy Jones' curse before, and we really need your help. Mayor Murray is keeping me here in Kingswood as a prisoner, which has brought the curse on this town, and it won't be broken until Murray is stripped of my powers that he stole and I return to the sea. The golden fish tokens and the golden octopus are the keys to my freedom.
So these are the tokens, the coins I was talking about. We'll use these when we find that treasure chest to kind of uncover more backstory. And so, you know, again, it's following pretty much the same formula that Nightmares from the Deep offers, but that is a formula that works pretty well for these games. And there is Murray himself right there in the middle. Kind of the one that stands out.
It's Mayor Murray and his Praetorians, the most ruthless and vicious soldiers I know. Murray will stop at nothing to get Calliope back. She's the source of his power. They won't stop now that they've found us. Oh no! He's activated the golden octopus! Murray is summoning...
Summoning the Kraken. Alright, here we go. So this is one of the first examples of something new here that they're doing that I really like. So in other games, their hidden object puzzles would basically be a list of words of like, oh, find these, 16 different items, right? And you would just have the words to go off of. And I thought those worked pretty well, like I still enjoyed them. But one of my issues with it, although maybe minor, is that every once in a while there would be like, one, you would maybe just kind of get tired of it. These games are like 4 or 5 hours long, so they're not too, they're pretty short. But usually towards the end, you've done enough hidden object puzzles where it's like, okay, I'm kind of over these right now. Not that they're bad. One thing that I think this game does a better job of just having more variety in its puzzles, so it's not as lenient on hidden objects. But also, the hidden object puzzles themselves are actually... you still have the traditional ones they've had in the past. But we also have puzzles like this, where instead you're kind of given the general shape. But it's more than just finding, you have to actually use them too. So this one we got kind of a handle to this desk right here. And so we're using it, then we're opening it up, right? Now here's another item we needed to find. And then clearly there's something we need to find right here, right? And then as you're finding them, they're actually being replaced by other items too. This, I believe, goes to that. We can use that to kind of spray this cabinet to get it nice and wet. We can find this rag here. Use the rag to wipe it off. Look at this. Open that up. There's something here we need to find, which is right here, that block. Can place the block right here. Gonna make an image. We can use these to grab that. There's some pieces of this mirror that we can kind of put back together. And they're going to say 4:15. So eventually we'll find the clock hands. Let's see, what is next? Ah, yes. There are our clock hands. And we want 4:15. Now, granted, I've already solved this puzzle, so it's maybe going a little faster than it normally would, but that's okay. Alright, so for the sake of just being able to show a little bit more, there's a couple things here. So we got our map. There's a few other things I do want to show because again, as you can see, you know, if you watched my previous video on Ghost of Maple Creek, you can kind of see it's a very similar formula, which is mostly fine. There are some key differences here. So if you notice right here, you'll see this kind of creature kind of phasing in and out. A parrot, I guess. So there are collectibles now. And so you'll find this. There's a like octopus or squid. And then there is, what is the other one? I think it's like a seahorse, actually. You can look at collectibles, yeah. So this carries over from each playthrough. So that's kind of what I found in general for my first playthrough. Still missing a little bit here. One thing is, I thought I found this squid, or no squid. I thought I found this parrot in my first playthrough. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I missed it. Anyways. So the parrots they're called morphing parrots. So they will phase in and out. And then sometimes you'll need to like activate something to actually reveal the collectible. So it's pretty cool. Just another thing to kind of find in the environment. Once again, the journal just kind of goes over some stuff. You can also look at your current objectives. And then we have our map. So here's another thing that they've done. It's a tiny little inclusion. It kind of fixes a very minor issue I think I've had in previous games. But I really appreciate that it's there. So in the past, you would, throughout this map as you play through, you'd have, all sorts of little circles of different areas you would go through all throughout this map, right? Or even multiple maps in some cases. This game ends up having a second one. And each circle here would represent a specific scene, right? And so currently we're at this scene right here, considering the X kind of on the spot there. But these action available icons, right? That's showing, okay, that's been in previous games. That's like, okay, maybe if you're stuck and if you're not playing on expert, you'll see these, and if you're stuck, you can say, oh, well, this room right here actually still has something available here, so obviously I need to go there. I think that's a really clever thing to have, just because, again, especially with the way this game is set up, you're going through these 2D scenes, kind of clicking on objects. It can be pretty easy to get stuck later on. So I really appreciate that. That's been in other games. One thing that hasn't been is, so let's say maybe you're in an area over here on the left side, you find an item, and that item is like, okay, clearly I need to use it over on this side. Previously, you would just have to kind of hold the circle button and kind of back through scene by scene until you get to the scene you need to be. In this case, you don't need to do that. In this case, we can just hover over where we want to go, and we're there. Now, granted, right now it's early in the game. There's only 3 rooms we've been in, so it's not a big deal. But later on, when you're going back and forth between a number of different rooms all across the map, it's really nice. It saves you like 10 seconds, so it's not a huge deal. But I do really appreciate it. So maybe we'll play a little bit more.
Help me before Mayor Murray makes me his prisoner again.
So this is a pretty decent look at kind of the beginning of this game. Calliope has been taken prisoner, and we are set out on a journey to hopefully free her and kind of solve the problem this island is currently facing with these fish people and Murray summoning a kraken. And why is he doing that? Why did they turn to fish people? Why is the kraken under his control? Who is Calliope? What is Davy Jones's involvement in all this? You have to play the game to find out. If you've not played these before, I would recommend starting with Nightmares from the Deep 1, of course. And then probably from there, just heading right into Nightmares from the Deep 2. These games are like $10. Again, they're probably about 4 or 5 hours long, so not super long. But I really enjoy them for what they are. You know, they aren't. Each game kind of has a few little issues that I have with it. Most of them are relatively minor. But they kind of keep cranking these games out on from, you know, PS4 ports, at least from their PC games. And I'm looking forward to playing more of them. I'm really enjoying them quite a bit. So thank you for watching as always, and until next time, I'll see you later.